Good morning. So yesterday I promised you 11 steps behind this four-stage C4 process. Remember, the 4 stages are concern, cause, countermeasure, and confirm. Those are pretty broad. There's a lot of stuff that happens in each one of those, so I just want to break that down a little bit further into smaller chunks to help teach and help people really think through these things. Now, it's important to remember that these stages are not linear in nature. Yes, they're played out in a logical stream, but we're going to go through each one of these in these rapid thinking cycles. So we might do step 1, 2, and 3, and then go back to 1, and then continue in this learning loop as we make it all the way through this process. So the first step is going to be understand the current situation. Generally, a problem occurs and we need to know what the context of that problem is. We need to be able to say what we've actually seen. And that's actually the second step. State the symptoms. What do you actually see? That's all part of understanding the current situation. So steps 1 and 2 are going to go round and round and round as we say what we see and we try to understand how that fits into the context of our larger problem. Often we'll use tools like process mapping or value stream mapping to get an understanding of the full situation around that problem space. So step 1, understand the current situation. Step 2, state the symptoms. Just say what you see. That's important because we make too many assumptions too often about what the problem really is. And if we make an assumption that's wrong, we're going to be chasing the wrong causes and we're not going to come up with a good solution. Step number 3 is usually to break the problem down. We usually end up with a pretty massive sized problem, and it's impossible to solve a large problem quickly. So we want to break that problem down into something very small that we can actually fix. And once we get that broken down, then we set a clear target. That's step 4. Set a clear target of what we want to have at the end of this problem solving process. And step 5, which is the last step of the concern stage, is to then select the right problem. Once you break a problem down, you're going to have a variety of problems. You're going to have a bunch of little problems, and you've got to decide what the target is and what one you're going to work on first. That's very important. Now, when you get that isolated, you've defined that problem very clearly. Now we can go into the next stage. So concern is all about figuring out what problem you're actually going to solve. The cause stage begins at step 6. Step 6 is simply find the root cause. There's only one step here. But there are a variety of techniques you can use to find the root causes. Topics for other talks. So the 6th step is find the root cause. Once we found the root cause, and typically there'll be multiple root causes, and there's always going to be some interaction between those multiple root causes, then we want to start figuring out what we're going to do about it. Now, to be honest, back at step 1, you probably started thinking about what you want to do about it. It's a human nature to figure out what we're going to do about it. So thinking about countermeasures is kind of inherent all the way through this, but we've got to cultivate the discipline to hold ourselves back and not actually work on those countermeasures until we really figure out what the problem is and what's causing it. So step 7 is formulate and evaluate multiple countermeasures. One of my favorite techniques is to say we used 5 whys to get to the root cause. So when we're formulating countermeasures, we need to come up with 5 different ways to solve the problem. Now, human creativity is pretty unlimited, so coming up with just 5 is very easy. It sounds like maybe it might be more difficult, but it needs to be 5 different ways to solve the problem. And it needs to be 5 mutually exclusive ways. So I can't say I can do this and this and this and this. That's one countermeasure. If I can say I can only do this or this, those are what I'm looking for. So I need 5 mutually exclusive, distinct countermeasures, and then we're going to evaluate those using criteria that we specified earlier and select the one that produces the best result in the test. Once we select the one with the best result in the test, then we plan and implement the countermeasure broadly. So the countermeasure stage is only 2 steps: formulate and evaluate multiple countermeasures, and plan and implement the best countermeasure. Step 9 brings us into the confirm stage. And one of the things we want to make sure we're doing in the confirm stage is to make sure that we are actually tracking this for a little while to make sure that the solution we selected and put in place is actually effective. One of the most important aspects of that is we've got to be able to standardize this new process that came with that new countermeasure. Say, this is the way we're going to be doing things going forward, and we've got to be able to teach that to everybody, because if we're going to track things, we need to make sure that people are behaving consistently to get us good, reasonable, statistically relevant results. So we're going to standardize and teach the new process as step 9. Step 10 is track the results to ensure the solution is effective. The tracking depends on the nature of the problem. If you have a high volume kind of process that produces a lot of an item, you may be able to sample enough of those to decide that your solution is effective after a certain period of time. So we can statistically calculate how big of a sample size you need to get this particular level of confidence in your solution. Other solutions might just be, we're going to track this every day going forward. It's a key metric for us to track every day. And that's up to you. So track the results to ensure the solution is effective. If ever you decide that it's not effective, go back to understand the current situation, back to step 1. The final step is probably, to me, the most important, because this is where we reflect for learning and recognize the accomplishment of actually having gone through this process. Notice the words there. This is not recognize the accomplishment of solving the problem. Even if you've put a countermeasure in place that is completely ineffective, because you've gone through this process in a nice, logical manner, you've learned something from that. Here's the time when you pull out, what do we learn from that? So even a failure is valuable for learning. So to summarize the 11 steps: understand the current situation, state the symptoms or say what you see. Step 3, break down the problem. Step 4, set a clear target. Step 5, select the right problem. Step 6, find the root cause. Step 7, formulate and evaluate countermeasures. Step 8, plan and implement countermeasures. Step 9, standardize and teach the new process. Step 10, track results to ensure the solution is effective. And step 11, reflect for learning and recognize the accomplishment. If you follow these steps, you'll get consistent results and you'll get consistent learning, and people will learn how to think and learn how to behave on their own. So use this. I'll post this diagram in the comments or somewhere else so you can find it and you can use it. If you need help with it, just give me a call. I love working with groups through the problem-solving process on real problems in your organization that affect your people. Let's work together and make a difference for your folks. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.